Want to open up by saying thank you all for joining us for today's town hall. Augusta's open for business, really important and timely event today. I'm really excited today to have our partners from the Small Business Administration as well as our homegrown talent, the Housing and Community Development Department here in the Consolidated Government of Augusta, Georgia. I think today is really timely because nationally and really here locally, small businesses have really not only felt the brunt of the pandemic, they've also been the cornerstone of helping us move our community forward. And so as we launch today's town hall, we'll get to hear and learn more about opportunities for our businesses and those interested in starting businesses to really grow and come out of the pandemic in better shape in which we entered it. And so today's agenda, we will go over two very broad topics. The first is the Augusta, Georgia Small Business Program offerings, which will be presented by Director Hawthorne Welcher Jr., and then the Small Business Administration Program and resources, where we look into pandemic recovery and beyond, led by Georgia District Director Terry Dennison. We'll also have a brief question and answer session for which we should be able to field some of the early question entered and maybe one or two that are presented today. And so with that, again, I'm excited to kind of assist today and moderate. My name is Odie Donald II. Have the pleasure of serving as the administrator for the Consolidated Government of Augusta, Richmond County. We're also joined today by Terry Dennison, the Georgia District Director for the U.S. Small Business Administration, and again, Director Hawthorne Welcher, who is the Augusta, Richmond County Housing and Community Development Director. To talk a little bit about Director Welcher, he is the director of Augusta, Georgia's Housing and Community Development Department. He's actually has been serving in that role since he was appointed in July of 2015. While there are an array of accolades that really describe Mr. Welcher and his recognition both here in the CSRA and also nationally, one of the most impressive things that he has done is develop more than 1,000 housing units since 2015. And he is currently administrating one of the most successful emergency rental programs in the Southeast region. More than 2,400 Augustans have avoided eviction through the distribution of more than $5 million in emergency rental assistance funds administered directly out of Mr. Welcher's shop. He's also a proud alum of Morehouse College, where he holds a BA in business. He also has a master's from Southern Wesleyan University, has a variety of certifications, including being a certified housing counselor, and was recently appointed, I believe in the last week or so, as a board member for our national board member for the National Community Development Association, which is one of the nation's most premier organizations related to development. And so with that, Director Welcher, I'll turn it over to you to give some insight into Augusta's programming.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Administrator Donald. Thank you, team administration, for the opportunity. And hello and good afternoon to Augusta, Georgia and beyond. So I also will start out by saying that from a mission perspective, it is Housing and Community Development's mission to create positive change by promoting self-sufficiency through partnerships. And I think that's key today. When we come to you business owners, whether you're a new business owner or you're existing business owner, it doesn't really matter. Self-sufficiency is the key. By building skill sets, in our opinion, that sustain is the aim. So today we just wanted to come to you and just highlight 3 programs. Now, as we go through this, I would tell you, be calm, stay calm. And if, we go through it and you've missed something, don't feel like it's the end of the world, because I can promise you that you will be able to contact us and connect to us to be sure that we're able to sort of serve you and help you catapult your mission and beyond. But to just talk about 3 key programs. Seeds for Life, you'll see there. Seeds for Life is one of those programs where we look at, if you think about it, if you close your eyes, We're planting a seed in hopes that a tree will grow. When we talked about Seeds for Life and we created this program, next slide, when we talked about Seeds for Life and we created this program, one of the things that we knew was that from a rehab perspective, we're helping our seniors. From a home ownership perspective, we're providing down payment and closing costs to those persons considered who want to be homeowners. But what truly were we doing for our small businesses other than offering loans? So thus you enter the Seeds for Life, where what we do on an annual basis, really over the last 3 years, we're very proud of this program. We've been able to bless 10 small businesses each year by providing basically a loan. It's a deferred forgivable loan or a grant to 10 businesses. And this primary program is specific to existing business owners only. But very excited about this opportunity. What we would pretty much say is that we would like for this $10,000 to really serve as your plug. Take the $10,000, use it as leverage. Go to the bank to be able to get a line of credit. So with that, we're very excited about it. I will tell you, Augusta, Georgia, and beyond, to stay tuned, because we will be blessing 8 to 10 small business owners in year 2022 as well. Next program, please. This program we know as META, Micro Enterprise Technical Assistance Program. Of course, this is a program where we want to be sure that from an Augusta, Georgia perspective, from a housing and community development department perspective, that you as a business owner are comfortable. Are you able to articulate your business plan? Are you able to articulate and do you understand why capital is important? Are you able to articulate, do you understand why credit and collateral are equally as important as well? So what we've done with this META program is something that we will be rolling out through the administrator's office, of course, with the vote and approval of our commission in first, second quarter of 2022. Very excited about being able to bring in-house 16 to 20 new or local or existing businesses and put them through a 32 to 48 hour boot camp to be sure that you do truly understand that this is a gift from God that you're actually employing. When you start talking about God gave you the vision and he gave you the mission, HCD wants to be sure that you have a sustained skill set necessary to be sure that you're impacting Augusta, Richmond County in a lot of positive ways. So be on the lookout for the technical assistance program. Those successful, next slide, those successful persons that actually go through that program, well, guess what? We'll be able to pay for a year's worth of 2 chamber memberships. We'll also reimburse you for your business license. And at the end of the day, we'll also provide you with a $10,000 capital catapult to begin you on your way. The last business that we want to talk about, I highlight today, is one that came about because of COVID-19. So when we look at COVID-19 and we think about it over the last 2 years and how we've all pretty much been sheltered in, there is a rainbow at the end of it. And then we think this rainbow, of course, is an opportunity that we've been able to help over 160 businesses. We've been able to provide or commit to businesses almost $1.2 to $1.3 million. But what I will say to you, if there's a business that's out there, now, if you're a business that has 20 or less employees, we're able to commit or award to you with just the submission of a couple of documents, $7,500. And if you're a small business that employs between 21 to 100 employees, we're able to employ or commit to you $15,000. Come while there's still money available. And if you would go to the next slide. This is the opportunity and a way for you to sort of get in touch with us. I would implore you right now or advise you right now to go to www.augustasmallbusinessrelief.com. Once again, that's www.augustasmallbusinessrelief.com. There is still money available for those businesses that have been directly or negatively affected by HUD. So we're waiting on you right now, and we hope that our phone will soon ring. And if you would go to the next slide. So everything that I've provided to you today, as you see there, we also come to what I consider the grandmother of them all. We also have as a product a small business development loan program, which is a loan program which you can employ up to $35,000. This is for new and existing business owners. What's the difference between coming to HCD or Housing and Community Development Department and or going to a bank? Glad you asked. The difference is the fact that we're not the bank. We clearly understand that there may be pretty much some impediments or some hurdles that don't allow you to pretty much meet that 640, that 620 that the bank is requiring. Our requirements are not that stringent. Our requirements are to help those low and moderate income businesses or those residents to be sure that we put you all in a situation for success. City of Augusta is not in the business of profiteering. So if you are interested, what I would tell you, if you're a new or small business owner and you just don't know the way, or you just can't find the way, or you just cannot find that capital, I would tell you to give us a call. We are in the business of partnering with you. We are in the business of holding your hand. We are in the business to do what? Give you the golden key and the golden tongue to be able to articulate and be successful for years to come. Next slide, please. We said a lot. I've said a lot today. I would simply tell you that if you see there, any questions, any concerns beyond today's presentation, I will ask you to give Manager Daniel Evans a call at the number and at the email address you see there. I'm pretty sure at the end of this, we will go back to this. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Welcher, for your presentation. I did want to give you one opportunity to just highlight one piece of clarity before we move on to Director Dennison. Are the programs that you spoke about, am I correct that those are only available for Richmond County residents?
Yes, sir. The funding is only accessible and to be committed to residents or businesses that are operated in Augusta, Richmond County. So the actual principal of the business does not have to reside in Richmond County, but the business itself has to be within the 300 square miles of Augusta, Richmond County. Yes, sir.
Got it. I think the other quick question that I wanted to give you some opportunity to highlight, we do have some folks who are participating virtually in the town hall, and what they were curious about is, they've taken advantage of the great resources around the grants. And so are they able to actually come back for a second bite of the apple as the pandemic has continued is one question. And then I think the second question is, if they've taken advantage of the Seeds for Life, does that stop them from receiving a small business grant?
So I would tell you, any small business is eligible for the small business relief from a COVID standpoint, as well as they're also eligible for your Seeds for Life. So the two actually are separate. So a person could get $7,500 plus $10,000 from Housing and Community Development Department through the city, which, and then also Administrator Donald also say they're also eligible from a loan perspective as well. So I think that the biggest thing that I would take away is, let's have a conversation. Let's have a true conversation. Let's clearly understand exactly, your roadmap, where you're trying to go. Allow us to sort of assess and sort of create a work plan for you that not only speaks to, the various financial resources we have, but also the partnerships. Because I want to be sure that we're forecasting 6 months, a year, 2 years out, to be sure that you are taking some of this funding and investing it from a capital standpoint to be able to go out and solicit a line of credit as well, which is really going to be the heartbeat of your business.
Got it. Thank you very much. Well, with that, excited to welcome Terry Dennison, the Georgia District Director for the U.S. Small Business Administration, who over the years I've had the opportunity to consider not only a great colleague and a friend, and likely one of the most impactful leaders in our region related to small business development. Ms. Dennison is the District Director of the U.S. Small Business Administration and has served in this role since 2002. She is responsible for overseeing the implementation of SBA's financial, counseling, training, and business development programs for small businesses across Georgia. Terry has been recognized by the likes of the Atlanta Business League, the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Georgia Micro Enterprise Network for her small business efforts, as well as the Greater Atlanta Economic Alliance the Atlanta Business Chronicle and Who's Who in Black Atlanta. She's actually a native of Corpus Christi, Texas, although we consider her a Georgia peach now. She holds her BA in American Government from Cornell University and her MA in Urban Studies from Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas. And she's also a graduate of the Federal Executive Institute in Charlottesville, Virginia. And so, Director Dennison, if you would give us a little bit of insight about the SBA programs and resources and assistance for COVID-19 pandemic relief and beyond.
Very good. Thank you so much, Administrator Donald, for this opportunity to share what the SBA is doing in terms of not only COVID-19 relief, but looking beyond as we go into 2020, an opportunity to remind people of our standard offerings as an agency for small businesses. But I also learned a lot listening to the presentation that Rector Hawthorne just shared. And it's great to know that those resources exist at the local level. I'm a firm believer in that there's a lot of opportunity to assist small businesses. So there's never a need to feel territorial or feel like you're stepping on each other's toes, because we really need to leverage our respective resources to try to provide the best support for small businesses and getting started and growing. So it was an educational opportunity for me as well. So if we can go to the first official slide, really going to focus, as I mentioned, on COVID-19 relief, as well as the standard programs of the agency. If you had been kind of keeping up with what was going on in terms of the offerings of the federal government, especially those through the U.S. Small Business Administration, since the start of the pandemic, we had a host of what I call alphabet soup. We had PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. We had SVOG, Shared Venues Operators Grants, et cetera. And a lot of those programs, all those other programs have wound down. So they have sunsetted. The last program that we have that's focusing primarily or exclusively on COVID-19 relief is the COVID-19 Economic Injury Disaster Loans, or EIDL. And actually, EIDL is not unique to COVID-19 relief like some of the other programs I just mentioned. We've had this as a standard offering of the agency for decades. It's part of our disaster assistance relief that we, as an agency, offer when there is usually like a natural disaster declaration, or even some disasters that were people-made, but they had a negative impact on a particular geographic area in terms of being able to transact business. So as the other programs were being, I guess, formulated and actually the legislation being passed to enact them, the first thing SBA did was to try to adapt this existing program to address COVID-19 relief. So in a nutshell, it's a direct loan from SBA. As we'll talk about later, traditionally with our regular programs, we are not a direct lender or had not been. We would guarantee loans made by commercial lenders, but with the disaster assistance, it's actually a direct loan from the Small Business Administration, a maximum of $2 million according to the statute, but in terms of what a particular business would be eligible for would be determined by a formula. But statutorily, the maximum is $2 million. For businesses, for a profit, is 3.75% interest. For nonprofits, just as an aside, it's 2.75% interest. And that is an exception, another exception to our usual program offerings. Normally, our regular programs do not go to nonprofits, but in disaster assistance, including the ones specifically targeting COVID-19 relief, nonprofits are eligible with a lower interest rate. 30% term, 30-year term, which is a long time, of course. And the whole point of that 30-year term is really to provide the minimum amount of payments possible each month, because normally, with a disaster, no one asks for it. It's something you didn't expect. So we want to try to make it as manageable as possible as you're trying to recover from whatever the disaster was. In this case, the COVID-19 pandemic and some of the actions that occurred around it, or different things that happened. There's a 2-year deferment, which means you wouldn't have to pay for the first 24 months after the loan is approved and closed. Now, interest does accrue during that time, so that will occur, but 2 years before you'd have to start repayment. And I also would like to note that there's not a prepayment penalty. People say 30 years, I don't want to be bogged down with a loan for 30 years. Once again, that's to try and help the business, especially in the beginning, to minimize the debt service requirements that this would place on the business, because we're trying to help them recover correct. So you can prepay without penalty as things get better. The key also in terms of the COVID-19 EIDL is that you had to be in operation on or before January 31st, 2020. For the purposes of the pandemic, the declaration date, if you will, is January 31st, 2020. So a lot of times we've gotten people asking, well, what if I want to start a business now? I know it's attractive, 3.75% compared to what you would have with a standard loan, business loan. Even with an SBA guarantee, it wouldn't be 3.75%. But once again, the purpose of this loan is not to start a business or to expand your business, but to basically help you cover your obligations in operating that business at the level that you would have basically pre-pandemic, or pre whatever that emergency or disaster declaration was. In terms of the deadline, we are coming up on winding this down. The end of this month, December 31st, 2021, will be when the program closes at 11:59. Little clarification. I know early on, until back in September, that 12/31 deadline meant that the SBA had to finish processing and approve that application on or before 12/31. But that was revised, like I said, back in September. So now the 12/31 date means it has to be submitted by that date. It has to be submitted in the SBA online portal by 11:59 on 12/31. We will continue as an agency to process those loans until they are decisioned. Also, there are opportunities to, maybe ask for an increase if you've already gotten a loan. You would still be able, as funds are available, to ask for that increase past 12/31, since the initial loan was created or approved at that before that deadline. Also, if there are declined for the loan, you would be able to ask for reconsideration. You have 6 months from the date of a decline decision to ask for a reconsideration on the loan application. So since that initial application was in on or before 12/31, you would still have the opportunity to have that 6-month period to ask for reconsideration. So something to keep in mind there. In terms of the use of proceeds, basically it's to cover your ordinary operating expenses. Once again, it's not to do something out of the ordinary, like to expand the business or to start the business, but whatever your regular operating expenses would be, it would cover that. And working capital for the loan. In some cases, you can use it, you will be able to use those proceeds to cover loan payments of existing business debt, particularly those debts that were incurred, say, during the pandemic. So an example of that would be, I needed working capital, so I maxed my business credit cards, or I got a line of credit just to try to keep paying the employees and covering my expenses. You would be able to use the proceeds from the economic injury disaster loan to take that debt out. And of course, at a 3.75% 30-year term would be a lot better than maybe something you had to get in a distressed situation, in this case with the pandemic. So you would be able to cover those loan payments or take out those loans. If it's a federal debt, like an SBA guarantee loan, then what you would have to do, you would not be able to prepay the debt like you would, say, if you had a regular or some other type of business loan that wasn't federally backed, but you would be able to make your monthly installments as part of covering your operating expenses. And next slide. Something that was created specifically for COVID-19 relief was the Targeted EIDL, or is the Targeted EIDL Advanced Grant. This is basically a grant that you would not have to repay, unlike the economic injury disaster loan or EIDL, and it would be up to $10,000. I say up to because you may be familiar with the fact that last year there was an EIDL advance or an EIDL advance grant, different pot of money, slightly different program. And, there was a formula for every employee, you got $1,000 up to $10,000. This, in this situation, is a little different in that if you didn't get a loan, if you didn't get the grant, the old grant last year, you'd be eligible for just the $10,000. No formula applied based on number of employees. So the up to is simply if you had gotten one of the old grants last year, then and whatever the difference between that and 10,000 you would be eligible for this year with this program. It's also been, as the title suggests, made more targeted, and that the business or the nonprofit organization would have to be, one, located in a low income area. And there is a tool on the SBA website where you can put in the address of the business and calculate or to figure out whether or not it's in a low income area. It'd have to have 300 or fewer employees, which many businesses in Georgia fall well below that. And then the key here is that you had to have suffered a greater than 30% reduction in revenue. And that's comparing 2019 and 2020 revenues. The idea being 2019 was pre-pandemic. And then looking at what things look like with the business and with the revenues in 2020, the year that the pandemic ensued. This application would have to be submitted by 12/31/2020 in the online portal. Basically, what you would do is you would apply for the economic injury disaster loan and the grant. If you are offered the loan, you can always turn down the loan. You don't have to accept the amount that's been calculated. You can take less than that or choose not to take the loan, but you would still be considered for the grant if you meet these qualifications that I just mentioned. And in terms of use of the proceeds of the grant, it's basically the same as it would be for the EIDL, covering the ordinary business expenses of that enterprise. Next slide, please. Okay. If you go to the SBA website, sba.gov/EIDL, that's where the online application portal is. And they've also, over the last few months, been really working to try and come up with tools and additional guidance for borrowers or prospective borrowers. So we have FAQs and they're organized in a way kind of based on what the subject area is. Before it was just kind of a free for all, and probably was hard to really look at and figure out what you needed and find it. This way it's been indexed a little better so you can hone in on the area that's of concern to you with regards to the process, and then kind of see the questions and answers related to that. There's also some tools in terms of a sample in the intake, what the screen looks like that you would be inputting. And this is a great way you could print that off and kind of use that as a checklist. And then also there's an intake checklist in terms of what type of documentation you would need to upload or information you would need to enter. That way, and always recommend people gather all the, look through those checklists and the sample intake template and look, and then just kind of make sure you have all those documents and all that information right there at one time. And then you can, go through the different screens and fill in the information, upload documents as required. And that would make the process a lot simpler. And then the portal checklist as well will kind of help you in terms of what to look for at each stage, what the screen should look like, et cetera. Next slide. Okay, so these are just our standard financing programs, and I'll go through these pretty quickly. So next one, different. So this is our regular offerings, okay? And in this case, not a direct loan. Either we're guaranteeing a loan that a commercial lender or some other lender made, like a community development financial institution, CDFI, or we have provided funds, like in the case of the microloan program, to a third party, a CDFI or other type of nonprofit mission-oriented lender to provide those loans. So the 7A loan guarantee program, basically we're guaranteeing anywhere from 50 to 90%, depending on the nature of the transaction. And that's commercial lenders, loans made by commercial lenders, credit unions. Always check to see if your credit union is an SBA participating lender, because they can be, or a CDFI, community financial institution. Maximum loan is $5 million, even though our average is less than that. And then you can see there's a variety of uses for the proceeds, anywhere from commercial real estate acquisition, inventory, working capital. You can use it to refinance business debt in some cases and to purchase existing businesses. The 504 program basically focuses on hard assets, so we don't use it for working capital or inventory. It's mainly used for commercial real estate related to a business. That could be acquisition of existing building or construction of a new one. And it's an economic development or related project. So there's a job creation and retention requirement on it, or if your project does not necessarily meet that requirement, you can meet eligibility in other ways, either through a public policy goal or community development objective. For example, it's in a revitalization area that's being targeted, and there's a revitalization plan, and that's where that business is going to be. That would qualify it regardless of job creation or retention. If it's a minority-owned business, woman-owned business, or veteran-owned business, that would meet a public policy goal and therefore qualify the project. And it is done in conjunction with a conventional business loan. The difference is that with the 504 loan, it's a fixed rate and it's based on treasury rate, which is usually less than your prime lending rate. So it really creates a blended situation to help mitigate the cost of that project. Also, what's good is that it between that conventional loan and the 504 loan, in most cases, the borrower would only have to put in 10% of the total project cost. With a conventional loan, it could easily be 20, 25% or more, depending on the type of business and the nature of the project. So that, money that would have gone to the down payment, if you will, with a 10% requirement, would free up funds that could be deployed elsewhere in the business. And the 504 loan component is done by an approved certified development company. We do have one in Augusta that as part of the CSRA Regional Commission, CSRA Business Lenders. And they do make these 504 loans. And then the microloan program is done through an approved SBA microlending organization, and it's a loan up to $50,000. And a lot of times that's simply used for working capital, inventory, materials needed as part of the business. Next slide, please. And this is just some of the things that we aren't able to use with an SBA-backed loan. So nothing speculative, passive income. Like, for example, if I own a strip mall, and I rent all of that out to other businesses, that would not be eligible. But if I am operating a business out of at least, say, 51% of that strip mall, I could lease out the other 49%. But there has to be an owner-occupied part of that project. Don't do it for relending, give you money so you can relend it. And then, as I pointed out earlier, nonprofit organizations are generally not able to get these loans. They're not eligible for it. Or partial business acquisition. I can buy out someone, to be the 100% owner of a business. I can purchase an existing business, but I can't buy like a 10% stake in a business using an SBA-backed loan. Okay, next slide. Okay, we'll just touch on some of the non-financial assistance resources we have. Counseling and training resources. We have several types of entities that we support, that we fund to provide one-on-one counseling, which is free, and training on starting and operating a business. The training a lot of times will be at cost, just to cover the cost of the training, because we do not allow them to make a profit from the training and offering it. Small Business Development Centers, we partner here in Georgia with the University of Georgia. There is an SBDC in Augusta that serves the CSRA region. We have SCORE, which used to be Service Corps Retired Executives, now it's simply SCORE, because we have active business people who are volunteering their time, as well as the retired business people, to provide and share their expertise as business owners with those who are looking to start or grow their existing business. We have a chapter in Aiken that does reach out across the river and work with businesses or prospective businesses in Richmond County. Women Business Centers, we have a couple, and they're not, one of them is not, neither one is located in Augusta, but they do provide services virtually. They have training on demand, counseling, virtual counseling, et cetera. They do offer that. And then our Veteran Business Outreach Center, we do have one in Warner Robins at Vector, but they do circuit rides around the state and offer services and support virtually as well. The only thing I will point out is that these are entities that we partly fund, but they're not SBA. I know a lot of times people say, well, I visit your SBA office in Augusta or in Savannah. The only district office for SBA is in Atlanta. However, we utilize these relationships, these grantee relationship, contractual relationships to expand our reach. But the people there are employees of that host entity, not of SBA. But we do provide funds and support for them to deliver these services on our behalf. So I did want to clarify that. Okay, next slide. And of course, we've got the SBA website at sba.gov, which provides templates, tools, does have an online learning center, as well as tools to help you find SBA-related resources where you're located. Another platform that we launched at the beginning of the year is Ascent, and that's the website there. And Ascent focuses on women-owned businesses they've been in operation for a few years, and now they're looking to expand, looking how do they find what the next opportunity or what the next direction is for that company. So there are tools, articles, et cetera, to really try to speak to some of those issues. Many of them any business have, but those that might be maybe more unique to women-owned businesses. Next slide. And then finally, government contracting. You know, the federal government spends a lot of money on an annual basis, more or less about $500 billion in acquiring goods and services. There are goals and targets that the federal government has on spending that you see there in various categories. I will say that the small disadvantaged business goal actually has changed. There was an executive order a few months ago that's going to increase that from 5% to 15% between now and I think 2025, with this fiscal year 2022, which is for us started back in October. The goal is going to be 11%. So that is something a lot of people have interest in, and we're looking at how we can leverage that increase in the goal to help more diverse type businesses access federal contracting opportunities. Next slide. Okay, and these are some of the programs that we offer. The 8A Business Development Program, which is a certification, but also allows for a specified period of time, up to 9 years, for businesses to receive more hands-on assistance. They're assigned someone from the staff, which we will be doing more of that after the beginning of the new calendar year. Hub Zone certification for businesses in economically distressed areas, which will allow them to then be eligible to go after set-asides and price evaluation preferences based on the Hub Zone status. And then women-owned small business certification. It is a formal certification now. You actually have to apply, submit an application to have SBA approve you in order to be able to say you are women-owned small business. And then our mentor protege program allows newer small businesses in the contracting arena to partner with more experienced small businesses or even large businesses to receive a variety of assistance, contracting, financial, technical assistance, etc. Next slide. Yes. So I know that's a lot of information, but at least gives you an idea of the parameters of what we offer. And this is where you can get more information about our programs and how to reach us. I will say we are getting a lot of calls because of the December 31st deadline with the IDLs. So probably the best way to reach us, if you can, is to email us at georgia@sba.gov, because we can track that a lot better and get your request to the appropriate person more easily. And thank you for this opportunity once again to provide this information.
Well, listen, first, thank you, Director Welcher, as well as Director Dennison. I think the information that you've already provided has been extremely helpful for folks in the region. I know that just from the chat box, folks are really excited about the opportunity to access some of those resources, especially before the end of the year. As things slow down for others, accessing capital is always a good way to end your year. So we do have a couple of questions that came through both in advance as well as through the chat box that I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to answer. So we'll hop right into them. And if it's a question for both, I'll let you know that as I provide the question. And if it's for a singular entity, I'll let you know that as well. So I guess the first one is, and this looks like a question that both HCD as well as SBA can answer. Let's say a business applied for assistance in a previous round, but they didn't receive the assistance. Would they need to apply again, or would those applications roll over to the next period? Would they automatically, would their application automatically be considered, or would they need to resubmit?
They do not need to resubmit. It sort of rolls over. And also we provide the technical assistance because our thing is never a no, it's just not right now. So we do provide pretty much the parameters as to exactly why the application was not approved initially, but it would not need to reapply, but just seek additional counsel through our office.
Got it. What about SBA, Director Dennison?
Okay. I would say that in terms of the economic injury disaster loans for COVID-19, you would not submit a new application.
Okay.
In fact, that actually complicates your process even more, because if there's multiple applications, then there's a question as to, well, which one's legit, which one's not. So always, if you are declined and you want to have it revisited, just use the same application and state that as a reconsideration request on that application. Do not create a new application in the portal.
So a new application with SBA might actually increase the length of the time frame versus just going back in to request a renewed look at an existing application.
Well, with the idles, definitely it would, and that's some of the challenges that we're trying to help people work with our disaster assistance folks to work out, because it does complicate things and slows things down considerably.
Understood. So an additional question that I think is both a great question for both HCD and SBA. I'll give SBA the first crack at this question.
Okay.
Will there be any new loans or grants that will be made available in calendar year 2022?
I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, one of the things that's in the works, we don't know if it will be done through legislation or if it's something that SBA will do, based on its own authority and regulations. But there is a move in the agency to create a regular direct loan program. We used to do that back in the early days of SBA up until like maybe the late 80s. So there is a look at doing maybe loans $150,000 or less as a direct loan. And our administrator is very determined to make that happen. Like I said, we may be able to do it through legislation. If not, she'll use whatever authority she has as administrator to do that. So I think they are looking at something to come out maybe by the spring.
Good deal. Well, that's good to know. Help is on the way. What about you, Director Welch? Any new programs or any extension of your existing programs for 2022?
So I would say that our Seeds for Life program will continue in 2022. Our COVID relief, small business relief program will continue. There's still funding available. Then I would also say that our micro enterprise technical assistance, as well as our normal small business development loan program, will continue in 2022 as well.
Good deal. Well, so the next question, I've heard each one of you mention it, but I think our listeners are kind of eager to get some additional information. Can you talk about the resources that are available for small business mentorship, training, and advisement? And so either one of you, I think I gave SBA the deference last time. Mr. Welcher, you want to hop in and talk about the resources available through HCD?
Yes, sir, I will. We talk a lot about the capital. We talk a lot about the funding. As we've indicated, I'll take this opportunity to highlight again just the technical assistance program, where we would be looking to sort of highlight 16 to 20 to 25 small businesses, new and existing businesses, in 2022 in partnership through a 32 to 48 hour boot camp or training course, if you will. And this training course, of course, will be broken down into various aspects. A lot of times, you see on the signs when we ride on these Georgia streets, pay $3,000 for a bit for this golden business plan. So we want to be sure that our persons aren't paying $3,000 to $5,000 for a golden business plan that at the end of the day truly needs to be substance filled, and not only substance filled, but going through training courses. And then at the end of the training course, what are we offering to be sure that our businesses are really being catapulted and they're able to win from day one. So just excited about the opportunity to be able to partner with existing partners. Just don't want to name those partners right now, but it does give an opportunity for Augusta, Georgia, once again, through partnership to show impact. And then I think at the end of the day, truly provide impact to the small businesses by making sure they have the correct toolbox necessary to be able to be successful in 22 and years to come.
Got it. Well, listen, I think we have enough time for one more question for, I think, each one of you. And so I guess we'll talk about veteran and minority-owned small businesses. What resources are available to provide help to veterans and minority-owned businesses through each organization?
Okay, I guess I'll start off with that one. In terms of veterans, I did mention earlier the Veteran Business Opportunity or Outreach Center, the VBOC. Provide, the counseling, training, et cetera. And then also mention, like, for example, with the 504 loan program, veteran-owned businesses, that in itself would qualify a business from an eligibility standpoint for that program. A lot of times what we do is not necessarily a particular program or a new program or a specific program like loan program, but we try to target what our offerings are to the veteran population and veteran organizations, et cetera. Same thing with minority-owned businesses, trying to reach out to different diverse chambers and other business organizations that focus on minority-owned business to let them know what it is that we offer. In terms of programming, we got the 8A program, which in government contracting, which the majority of the participants are minority-owned businesses. Is not exclusively for minority-owned businesses, but I would say 95% of the participants are. And then you have women-owned small business certification, et cetera. And HubZone could be for anybody, who live in those areas. But a lot of times you do have a concentration of minority-owned businesses in hub zones. So in that sense, we're focusing on those populations.
Got it. And Mr. Welcher, can you give us some insight on what resources at HCD specific to Richmond County are available through your operations for veteran and minority-owned businesses?
So I think veterans and minorities will be happy to know that all of our programs all of our small business products are available. I think for our standpoint, of course, there are certain requirements, but I think the biggest requirement in any of our programs is to be sure that we're providing and creating jobs. For the most part, typically the way we look at it, for every $35,000 or up to $35,000 that we employ or commit, whether through grant or through loan, through any small business, we want to have the creation of at least one job to a person considered low to mod. And when we say low mod, we're talking about a one-person household, person that makes about $38,000 a year or less. So you're really not talking about, that's a lot of people. So from that standpoint, our funding sort of speaks for the most part through our Cdbg program. And with that, we want to be sure that we're meeting those national objectives, or at least one. And typically it's going to be through economic development, whether we're providing Seeds for Life, grant and or loan, that we're providing pretty much a job for a person who is considered low mod. So all of our programs are available for minorities and or for veterans.
Well, listen, I will tell you both, I think the information provided today was very helpful, and it looks like our small business owners are really excited to receive it. Now, there are many more questions, and I know we are down to our last few minutes. One thing I would ask is if each one of you could give us, and we could likely flash it back on the screen, is the contact information to make sure that we're able to follow up and make sure any questions that were not answered today, or any folks just looking for additional resources after we repost this town hall today, can reach each of your offices. Mr. Welcher, if you could go first and just kind of highlight where we can reach out to and follow up if there are additional questions.
So a couple ways, and everybody likes to receive and connect in different ways. So you're always welcome at 510 Fenwick Street, Augusta, Georgia 30901. However, we would also ask you if you would like to go via phone, 706-821-1797. Contact Manager Daniel Evans, or you can email him as well at devans2@augustagA.gov.
Awesome. Director Dennison, would you like to share any contact information to ensure that those who want to connect with SBA are able to following this town hall?
Sure. As I stated earlier, especially as we get through the rest of this month, our phone volume is pretty high. So I would recommend email, which would be Georgia, GEORGA @SBA.gov. If you do want to call, the number is 404-331-0100.
Awesome. And again, I just wanted to not only thank the two of you for providing such detailed information that's kind of targeted to Richmond County, but also for all of those who tuned in. And I would encourage you to please spread the word about these awesome programs, but also the great things that are happening in Augusta. I think I always say this, I'm sure folks are getting tired of it, but many times we voice our displeasure because the squeaky wheel, ends up getting the oil. But what we also have to do is make sure we voice our pleasure when we're getting resources and opportunities brought into our community. So again, thank our panelists, but also thank you to all of those who have tuned in today. And we hope to bring additional small business and impactful programming to all of our stakeholders in Richmond County. So again, thank you all for joining us today. You will be able to access this town hall on our YouTube channels, our Facebook, our Twitter, and all social media channels. And we look forward again to spreading this information widely so